Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I want to talk to you today about the economic programs of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. They're in the news a great deal. They talk about one another's programs, they talk about their own programs. The media talk about whatever it is the media think will make money for them. That's the way we have it set up in our society. And many of you have asked me to comment, and so that's what I'm going to do. I've done it before. I'm sure you'll be asking me to do it again, and it's appropriate. It's a very important part of whatever the election brings us. Donald Trump's economic program is really very simple. He wants to extend the enormous tax cuts that were passed in December of 2017 when he was president. Those tax cuts mainly favor corporations and the rich. They drastically cut the amount of money flowing into the government of the United States because corporations and the rich got such a generous tax cut. By the way, that's part of the reason why all kinds of programs were cut back. That's the reason why we had to borrow so much money as a nation to go so much further into debt than we already were to make up for the taxes not collected from corporations and the rich. And then there are a few additional things, but they don't basically change very much. On the other hand, we have Kamala Harris's suggestions. She's not so eager to extend the tax cuts. And in particular, and to her credit, she wants to raise taxes on corporations and the rich, particularly the super rich. And she wants to preserve a whole lot of government programs and to increase particularly those that affect families and children in the United States. So clearly, better for the middle and the lower classes of people, more expensive for those at the top. And that's a quite traditional Republican versus Democrat tilting. And so they're kind of in line with how it has been. And you can draw your own conclusions. You have your preferences, and you can vote knowing that the traditional Republican is more or less what Trump is doing, and the traditional Democrat is more or less what Kamala Harris is saying. Of course, they're just talking. If they don't win the election, that'll affect what they can do. Even if they win, but the Congress is in the hands of the other party, that will affect what they can do. And then there's all the lobbyists from the business community that dominate in Washington, and they'll have a lot to say about what either candidate can do. And if I had more time, I'd talk to you about that. But that's not what I'm after. I want to ask a different question. Will there be basic changes in the way this country is working? Or, if you're in the middle or lower class, the way this country is not working real well? And I'm going to give you two examples to support this point. Neither candidate is talking about the kinds of big changes that would have to happen if you're going to really do something about the inequality of this capitalist system that we have in the United States. Whether you like it or not, you have to face the fact that over the last 40 to 50 years, taxes, government spending, every kind of program imaginable has been passed, removed, adjusted, shifted in ways that have made the rich richer and everybody else not so. This didn't happen over 2 years. It can't be blamed on the Republicans or the Democrats because both of them participated. That's the reality. Here are a couple of examples that will drive the point home. When I was a young man starting out and learning about the inheritance tax here in the United States, sometimes also called the wealth tax, it's the tax that the government puts on when you die. Here's the idea behind it. We should all start, the idea goes, on a level playing field. We should all begin with more or less the same resources and then go as far, rise as high as our talents and our hard work will take us. But we shouldn't allow some people to start already miles ahead of the rest of us. And an inheritance tax or a wealth tax is how you do that. You say to a person, you can accumulate wealth, you can enjoy it in your lifetime, you can pass some of it to your children or your heirs, but most of it goes back into the community from which you drew the wealth. And the basic reason is so everybody starts pretty much in the same condition. So when I was a young man, the most anybody could leave to their children without incurring a federal inheritance or wealth tax was $600,000. Today, it's $22 million. In other words, over the last 40, 50 years, we have systematically changed the inheritance taxes to let more and more rich people make their children rich by starting them off with way more money than the average American will ever see, let alone start with. That's one of the reasons Donald Trump is a millionaire or a billionaire, whichever is the actual truth. Then I want to give you another kind of example. In most Western European countries, I know France best because of my family, but it's true for other countries too. The law has been on the books, which I like to remind my American audiences about. When you graduate from high school or college and you take your first job, your employer is required to give you 5 weeks of paid vacation from the beginning. Every worker, doesn't matter what skills you have or don't have, it doesn't matter how long you have or haven't worked for your employer or who your employer is. It's your right as a French citizen. That prevents all kinds of inequalities from shaping the lives of French people. Everybody gets more or less the same paid vacation. Not some people and then other people not. I could go on. Here's the point. We've spent 40 to 50 years making the United States extraordinarily unequal. You're going to have very big changes, far beyond what most Republicans and Democrats, including today's candidates, are talking about. Where is the proposal for 5 weeks paid vacation for every American worker? Where's the proposal to bring the inheritance tax way back down so that millionaires can't escape it? And so we once again have a level playing field for everybody. We're not close to those because we don't yet have the political candidates or parties to make a correction of the inequality here big enough to make a real difference. And that is a shame and a loss for us as a nation that we have no credible candidates with a chance ready and willing to tell it like it is and to change it as it needs. If conversations like this and interventions like this strike you as valuable, please share them. That's why we make them, with your friends, your coworkers, your family. It's easy to do, and as I said, that's why we make them. And I always like to end by reminding you of what you know. It costs us money to do this. If you can donate, please do. Democracyatwork.info is where all of this is produced and paid for. Thank you.